Good morning. We're here today for the media briefing connection with the safe location finding Amanda Berry, Gina DeJesus, and Michelle Knight. We ask that you understand that some questions we can answer and some questions we can't answer out of respect for the family. Be mindful that this is an ongoing investigation, and due to the sensitive nature of the investigation, again, some questions cannot be answered. I introduce to you Mayor of the City of Cleveland, Frank G. Jackson.
Now, this morning we're happy to announce, or as you know, that Amanda Berry, Gina DeJesus, and Michelle Knight have been found and are alive. We're happy that they have returned to us. But their absence for several years has plagued their families, our community, Cleveland Police, and our law enforcement partners for years. We have several unanswered questions. Why were they taken? How were they taken? And how they remained undetected in the city of Cleveland for this period of time. Today we have 3 suspects in custody. Over the years, the Cleveland Police have worked closely with the Northern Ohio Violent Fugitive Task Force led by the Cleveland office of the FBI and on the investigation of Gina DeJesus and Amanda Berry. We have with us today a special agent in charge, Steve Anthony. He'll be talking later. We have also been searching our records for public safety calls for service at 2207 Seymour, as well as complaints regarding the house or the occupants of the house. Since last night, we have learned the following. Building the housing does not have any records or permits or violations at that address. Our records show that the Cleveland Fire Department and our emergency medical service have not been called to that address. At this time, our records show that Cleveland Police have responded twice to that address, once in 2000 and another time in 2004. And Director Flass will provide some details in regards to that. Now, as we move forward, we will provide updates as they become available, keeping in mind, as was stated, that this is an open investigation. Again, we're thankful that Ms. Berry, Ms. DeJesus, and Ms. Knight have been found and that they are alive, and that we have offered our support to the families and to the 3 ladies as they move down the road to recovery. Now, I do want to say again that this was a traumatic experience for them. Since we did not experience it as a community, but for them it's a traumatic experience, and we need to give them room in this. So I'll introduce you, Safety Director.
Good morning. Last night, just prior to 6 p.m., Cleveland Police Communications Center received 2 calls. One from a neighbor to the house on Seymour Avenue, and a second call from Amanda Berry, one of the missing women. An incident was created in our communications center at 5:52 and 33 seconds. A police car was dispatched at 5:52 and 49 seconds, and the first police responders arrived on the scene just under 2 minutes later at 5:54 and 7 seconds. By 5:58, the responding officers have identified Gina DeJesus and Amanda Berry as having been located at the home. 1 minute later, they announced that they had also recovered safely Michelle Knight. All 3 of the missing women and a 6-year-old child belonging to one of the missing women was conveyed to Metro Health Medical Center, where they were being treated further and provided care. Immediately after learning of the incident, we began an immediate search of our databases to determine what information that we had regarding this specific address. We have as the mayor articulated, we went back and looked at all the emergency medical calls for service and our fire responses to that address on Seymour Avenue since 2006, as far back as our database exists. And we found that there were no calls for service We again checked our building and housing department to see whether or not there were any building code violations or complaints made against that address, and there were no complaints or violations identified. We also went back and looked at police calls for service. We did learn that in March of 2000, Ariel Castro, one of the individuals that's in custody currently, reported to the police that there was a fight in the street. There's no record of any arrest having been made as a result of that police response. And in January of 2004, as a result of an investigation that was initiated by Children and Family Services, Cleveland Police went to the address, knocked on a door, were unsuccessful in connection with making any contact with anyone inside that home. That incident appears to have been related to his employment, Mr. Castro's employment as a school bus driver. He either intentionally or inadvertently left a child on a bus when he returned to the depot. As a result of that, it came to our attention that from the Children and Family Services that there may have been a crime. An investigation that was conducted by the Cleveland Division of Police indicated there was no criminal intent on Mr. Castro's action. Again, we're going to continue to look at all the databases, not only from calls being made from that address or about that address, but any calls that have been made or could have been made by any neighborhood residents alleging illegal activity or inappropriate activity within that home. And at this point, I can confirm that we have no indications that any of the neighbors, bystanders, witnesses, or anyone else has ever called regarding any information regarding activity that occurred at that house on Seymour Avenue. I'll turn this over to Chief of Police Michael McGrath, who will provide some additional information.
Thanks, Director. Good morning, everyone. Last night, the city of Cleveland, Northeast Ohio, received a tremendous news: the rescue of Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Gina DeJesus. As a law enforcement person, and I know everybody within the Division of Police and all my law enforcement partners feel the same, I was overseeing the disappearance of Secura Johnson back in the low 2000s. She was a 12-year-old female that disappeared, and 3 weeks later we found her body tragically. So to find these three girls recovered well, it just makes the police department, it just gives us a boost. It really, really does. Amanda, who had been missing since April 21st, 2003, was identified last evening after fleeing from her captor's home, and amazingly, Gina DeJesus and Michelle Knight were in the same house, alive and well with a small child. All the women, all the young ladies have been missing about a decade. Gina DeJesus was last seen on April 2nd, 2004. Michelle Knight had been missing since August 22nd, 2002. The Cleveland Division of Police and our law enforcement partners, which includes the FBI, Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Office, the U.S. Marshal's Office, remain committed to these investigations over the years. Through our involvement with the Northern Ohio Violent Fugitive Task Force, led by the Cleveland office of the FBI, we have continued to investigate any and all leads in these cases. These leads came in over the years and were investigated time and again. Possible suspects were interviewed, search warrants were executed. Thankfully, and I mean thankfully, due to Amanda's brave actions, these three women are alive today. 3 men have been arrested in this case, and they are Ariel Castro, 52 years old, her brother Pedro, 54 years old, and another brother O'Neill, 50 years old. The original task force will now continue the follow-up investigation relative to the recovery of and processing of the scene, interviewing, and the investigation. Next steps. There's 10 years of logistical information that has to be sorted through. Numerous interviews have to be completed. The FBI evidence recovery team is processing the scene. They worked until 5 a.m. this morning. They will regroup later this morning, and I anticipate that it will take a few days to completely process this scene there on Seymour. Most importantly, though, the victim's physical and emotional well-being are the main concern and have to be addressed. The FBI is providing assistance, and Special Agent Steve Anthony will provide additional information relative to the debriefing of the victims. Mr. Anthony?
Thank you, Chief. Good morning, everyone. As Chief said, I'm Steve Anthony, Special Agent in charge of the Cleveland office of the FBI. For Amanda's family, for Gina's family, for Michelle's family, prayers have finally been answered. The nightmare is over. These three young ladies have provided us with the ultimate definition of survival and perseverance. The healing can now begin. Every evening, year after year, as you well know, family members and law enforcement kept the faith that one day they might see their daughters, their sisters, and their nieces again. Monday evening, that happened. The FBI's Violent Crime Task Force, as the Chief and the Mayor mentioned, in particular, the men and women of the Cleveland Police Department have pursued every tip and have stood with the families each step of the way. And the families of these three young ladies never gave up hope, and neither did law enforcement. As you can imagine, words can't describe the emotions being felt by all. Yes, law enforcement professionals do cry. We rejoice with those families in the homecoming of Amanda, Gina, and Michelle, where I'm sure they'll be showered with much love and many, many hugs. But it has been said, while we celebrate today, we and our law enforcement partners continue to work shoulder to shoulder with the Cleveland Police Department to answer the many questions that investigators have. And rest assured, the FBI will bring every resource to bear to assist our partners in this case to bring the full weight of justice behind those responsible for this horrific, horrific case. And has been said, I know the public and you all have many questions, and so do we. Until we have the answers to those questions, based on facts and evidence, we won't be able to speculate as to the how and why. I just want to reiterate, in this case, as in others, all of us staying up here rely on the public's assistance to resolve these horrific cases. If you have any information, please contact Cleveland's Division of the FBI at 216-522-1400. That is, again, 216-522-1400. And it can't be emphasized enough. This is an ongoing investigation. In the coming days and weeks, investigators will be putting in countless hours to track the events of the last several years. As the Chief mentioned, the three, of course, Gina, Amanda, Michelle. Much of the effort that we have, that we're going to be doing over the next several days, is going to be focusing on them. How could we in law enforcement help speed the healing and the recovery process and treat them with the dignity and the respect that they deserve? And we're going to be providing not just the three, but their families, again, with comfort, with advice, with information in the coming days to, again, help in that process. And part of that, we have a special team of child forensic examiners that will be arriving this morning to help in that process, in addition to numerous victim witness specialists similar to those that have been sent to events such as in Boston. Thank you very much. I'll now turn it back over to Sammy.